My job as an independent journalist and broadcaster is to reveal and report the truths the MSM refuses to cover. So often, the corrupt and captured legacy media hides difficult realities or movements by omission. What they don't cover and who they ban from even being mentioned can be as instructive as the propaganda they constantly pump out. As a viewer of Outspoken, you will know that I have been horrified but not shocked by the willful blindness of virtually all of the establishment, including GB News, to cower behind contempt of court when failing to report on the Southport massacre cover-up and what the Prime Minister and Home Secretary knew when about Axel Rudakubana, including his alleged possession of an Al-Qaeda manual and production of ricin. Now, given they were all telling the public that any suggestion the stabbing of 3 young girls at a Taylor Swift dance class could have been motivated by Islamist extremism was nothing more than a far-right lie, I believe this really matters. So on Saturday, my quest for the truth took me to the segregation unit of HMP Woodhill, where the political prisoner Tommy Robinson is being housed in solitary confinement in, wait for it, a wing of cells that should be housing terrorists. There are 16 of those cells, by the way, but he is kept completely on his own, given the gravity of the threat to his safety behind bars. Now, what's Tommy's crime? Airing a piece of independent journalism because, yes, the UK in 2024 really is that effed up. And of course, first and foremost, I must clarify, I was visiting Tommy in a personal capacity, which is what the law requires in the UK. It was very important to me to be face-to-face with him, to find out about his conditions inside prison, and actually much more of what is now an obviously coordinated establishment and media witch hunt to silence him, which I believe will end up failing. But what is behind this campaign? Well, Tommy, you see, is who I would describe as an old school working class hero. The type of guy that actually all political parties despise. A traditional Englishman who has been utterly ignored and despised by progressive liberal elites. They actually look at him, you know, as somehow too dirty or too stupid to cope with his truths. While Douglas Murray and Jordan Peterson are tolerated by the establishment because they're a little bit posh, Tommy, they have decided, must literally be locked away. Silenced, ironically. Now, unlike most gutless journalists and broadcasters, I refuse to pretend that Tommy is not a significant force in the reshaping of the right of British politics. We have been in regular communication since my departure from GB News right up until his incarceration, and you will know that I speak about him regularly on this show. Within our 3-hour conversation, which I will tell you was watched at all times by at least 2 prison officers, I was able to get to the bottom of an email that Tommy was purported to have sent to the brilliant independent journalist Lewis Brackpool, but we had been unable to verify at the time. And that email suggested that Axel Rudakubana, had been attending mosque at Belmarsh prison. Tommy confirmed to me that it is well known at the prison where he had initially been detained that Rudakubana is indeed a practicing Muslim. But Tommy did clarify that his belief is his activities are limited to a multi-faith prayer room rather than a separate mosque. So just to give you a little bit of context, the Southport accused was housed in the medical wing in Belmarsh on the floor above Tommy's former cell, but it is well known within the prison that he attends prayers with the Muslim population. This was an open conversation within the walls of Belmarsh. There was not the slightest doubt that Rudakubana is now practicing his Muslim faith, having converted at some point in the past decade. Now, there was much else we discussed about Southport and what Nigel Farage has rightly described as the biggest cover-up of our lifetime.
Southport, all I can say to you right now is I know a hell of a lot more than the British public know. A hell of a lot more. I've been completely silenced. I dared the day after Southport to do a video to say, can we please know who this man is? Was he known to the authorities? Why do I feel we're not being told the truth? The level of demonisation I came under for that from both front benches was astonishing, from media commentators. Demonisation on a level that I'd never even experienced. Now I'm told by the Speaker of the House of Commons, I can't ask questions about it in the House of Commons. Parliamentary privilege is out of the window. Even rumours today that the court case, which is due in January, every effort is being made to defer it. Right? Yeah, this is what's going on. We are witnessing one of the biggest cover-ups we've ever seen in our lives. And I won't say any more than that. I genuinely would never wish to be in contempt of court. I have respect for our legal system. It's not perfect, but it's a damn sight better than most of the rest of the world.
I'm becoming less sure of that, to be honest, especially given that there is much of what Tommy and I discussed about the Southport massacre cover-up that I simply cannot repeat here without being dragged into court myself by the Attorney General. But there is nothing to stop reporting of Rudakubana's religious practices within jail today and the lies we were told by Starmer and Cooper to scare us into silence. As Tommy said to me, they knew that what they were telling us was a lie. Indeed, I believe it remains of the utmost public interest, given that for many weeks, the horrified British population was led to believe Rudakubana was a practicing Christian. Now, the former PM, Liz Truss, told me on Outspoken earlier this year that it is unfathomable that both Starmer and Cooper would not have been told almost instantly about the Al-Qaeda and Ricin discovery. Yet not one MSM journalist, given countless opportunities, has questioned them on this extraordinary and egregious concealment of the gravest order. Remember, Reform UK Deputy Richard Tice intended to do just that at PMQs until receiving a blanket warning from the Speaker Lindsay Hoyle, seemingly debunking the concept of parliamentary privilege. Only Robert Jenrick, the Tory Shadow Justice Secretary, has dared to go there since, including on this show, calling out the MSM.
I don't want people to be calling out incidents, squeamishly or selectively, as we saw earlier in the summer. In fact, I want the media to be able to speak about these things much more openly than they are today. I'm worried that we are sliding into the position that we see in some other European countries like Germany, where there is censorship, either by regulation or self-censorship, and serious crimes that are being committed, for example, by illegal migrants on the streets, are not being covered properly out of fear for community tensions and community cohesion issues. That is wrong. And we need to be ensuring that our media are calling out what is happening, no veil of secrecy being drawn over what's happening on our own streets. That is letting the British public down.
That's why the revelation that Rudakubana is practicing the Muslim faith behind bars openly is significant, even though I expect the MSM to continue to ignore this story. Now, I can also tell you that Tommy Robinson remains the victim of judicial and police witch hunts. One is so outrageous that I'm going to discuss it on tomorrow's show. But on the political front, Tommy also had a clear message to me that he wanted delivered to Nigel Farage and Reform UK. It's a pretty positive message, actually. He simply says, stop attacking the Uniting the Kingdom cultural movement. Stop calling us that lot. Stop attacking Tommy Robinson perfectly. Allow the right to unite. And given the seriousness of what our troubled United Kingdom is facing under this Labour hellscape and the growing threat to our security, I think that advice would be wise to heed. But now, the outsider. And it is a joy today to be joined by Howard Cox. He was the London mayoral candidate for Reform UK and, of course, the great man behind the FairFuel campaign, fighting for Britain's motorists. Now, Howard Cox, you came up in my very lengthy conversation with Tommy Robinson behind bars at HMP Woodhill at the weekend because, of course, you have been a big part of this whole discussion regarding Reform UK, that lot, etc., etc., etc. And I will come to that. But first, I just want to start talking about Axel Rudakubana because, of course, you have also on this show revealed information in the past suggesting that the authorities knew that Axel Rudakubana was indeed Muslim. What do you make of this revelation that he is practicing his faith behind bars in Belmarsh?
Well, Dan, congratulations on the interview and talking to Tommy. I think you're incredible, both of you, and getting this out there because the mainstream media is completely ignoring it, as we all know. But it's no surprise that this man is a practicing Muslim. As you know, people have come to me and told me who were actually there at the arrest, and he was shouting Allahu Akbar as he was being arrested. So the clue was right from the beginning. It was there. And, I mentioned this to you on the show about a month ago, didn't I? And, I've been attacked by various people in various parts of our party, just saying I shouldn't say these things, but I'm only passing on the truth.
Indeed. Absolutely. And why this is so politically significant, Howard Cox, is that there are literally people behind bars right now, in part because they suggested Axel Rudakubana was an Islam extremist. But first, with the holidays creeping up faster than your aunt's fruitcake recipe, I've got something way better to share with you. If you want to look sharp for all those festive gatherings and maybe finally win the best groomed at the Family Dinner Award, check out the latest masterpiece from Manscaped, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver. Trust me, it's like Rudolph for your face, guiding you to a smooth, irritation-free shave. I use it every day, and it is brilliant. So let's dive into the goods. The Chairman Pro is armed with not one, but two interchangeable skin-safe blade heads. Think of them as your grooming superheroes. The skin-safe 4-blade foil for when you want that baby bottom smooth, and the skin-safe stubble trimmer for when you want to keep some stubble but clean it up a bit. Both keep you looking sharp while minimizing razor burn and irritation, because no one wants to show up to the holiday party looking like they've lost a fight with a Christmas tree, right? But wait, there is more. The Chairman Pro has Flex Adjust technology, which is basically like the holiday miracle of shaving. It's like Santa's elves made it just for you because the blades and pivoting head adjust to every curve of your face and is gentle on the neck area as if they had the gift of foresight. So go ahead, kiss that awkward jawline patch goodbye. No more pretending it doesn't exist while you hope nobody notices under the mistletoe. And if you want even more precision, on the right side of the bracket, there's a precision lock. When you lock it, the blade head sits firm so you can achieve a more precise shave. And here's something that's going to make your grooming routine even easier. The Chairman Pro is waterproof, so you can use it right in the shower. And the waterproof feature doesn't just make shaving easier, it also simplifies cleanup too. Just a quick rinse under the sink and you're all set. The Chairman Pro isn't just for daily shaves either. It's powerful enough to tackle up to 5-day growth, making it perfect whether you're shaving every day or just tidying up after a few days. And with up to 75 minutes of runtime on a single charge, you'll have plenty of juice to go from Santa's beard to smooth as a snow angel. It even has a travel lock to help make sure it doesn't accidentally turn on in your bag, and an LED spotlight to help you see every detail, ensuring nothing gets missed. So get the Chairman Pro today and experience a shave that is as smooth as you deserve. It has everything you need to keep your face looking and feeling its best, all in one box. So head on over to manscaped.com and join the over 11 million men worldwide like me who trust Manscaped. If you use the coupon code Outspoken at checkout, guess what? You get 20% off your entire order and free shipping. So let me just repeat that, www.manscaped.com using the coupon code Outspoken. But now, back to the show.
I know it's ridiculous. We're seeing this two-tier policing, two-tier judiciary system, the whole thing now. What I want to know is, why is there a cover-up with this? What's the problem with this? This man committed a horrible act of violence, and we should be talking all about how bad this man is and what his motivations are. Why is that such a thing to be objected to or ignored by the mainstream media? I just do not understand this.
Well, the thing is, what
I'm
I
proud
feel,
that
Howard, is they hide behind contempt of court. Because, of course, we want this guy to have a fair trial, right? Of course we want him to have a fair trial. But there's absolutely nothing to stop us reporting on the fact that he was shouting Allahu Akbar when he was arrested. The fact that the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister would have been informed of the Al-Qaeda manual at his house and the ricin when they were continuing to suggest to the public that this guy was a Christian who just happened to go into a Taylor Swift dance class. So I think the problem is, it's a bit like the Speaker in Parliament. It's almost like a blanket ban on this. It becomes a cone of silence because they just want to push this conversation out of the public narrative. Now, I think in this case, we're not going to forget it, are we, Howard? It doesn't matter how far away this trial is. We are not going to forget what happened, because it was almost like this was the moment a switch was flicked in the minds of the British public. We have had enough of that whole approach of don't look back in anger. We've all got to come together after one of these tragedies. No. When you go in to a dance class with 3 young girls, that's when we say enough.
Absolutely right. And I'm so proud of Nigel Farage. He's a friend and obviously is my party's leader and coming out with what he did. But it's a shame that his hands were tied by Lindsay Hoyle. I just do not get it. I think Lindsay Hoyle was actually abusing the parliamentary privilege aspect of our democracy, because that's the whole point of sitting in the House of Commons. You can basically say what you want on the basis to look after your constituency's welfare. Why he stopped that, I don't know. Who was acting and instructing him? I'd love to know.
Then, of course, we come to the question of Reform UK and Tommy Robinson. And you came up in our conversation in prison because Tommy was aware, actually. It's incredible. He's very switched on because he does receive emails. So a lot of what goes on this show, but also on Maya Tusi's show and Paul Thorpe's show, is reported back to Tommy. And he's very, very grateful, by the way, for the viewers who keep in touch with him, because that is his access to the news. It's a very antiquated system how it works in there, Howard. So he is allowed a laptop, but the laptop has no internet connection. He can read the emails, reply to them, but a lot of them are censored. And so if you haven't heard back from him, it's quite possibly for that reason. But he was aware of your appearance on Outspoken. He was very grateful for the fact that you stood up for that lot. And his real message to Nigel Farage and Reform UK, Howard, is not, oh, you've got to let me in. Oh, you've got to become a pro-Tommy Robinson party. He doesn't want that. He wants the Uniting the Kingdom movement to be a separate cultural phenomenon, a bit like, almost like the Tea Party in the US or something like that a few years ago. But he does want the attacks to stop. What he finds unpalatable and crossing the line is personal attacks on him and also personal attacks on his supporters. And I know that actually you agree with that, Howard, right?
Absolutely right. I mean, I've had personal attacks galore for, I don't know Tommy very well. I know there's 2 schools of thought from him about his past and what he's doing now. What he's doing now, I totally support. He's phenomenal as far as I'm concerned. He is, as you say, a working class hero. And I'm proud to actually say that I'm one of that lot that actually something like half of that lot that support him are Reform UK people. And I've been bombarded by people saying, well done, Howard, standing up for that situation. It doesn't mean to say that I will not question him for some of the things he's done in the past, but that's irrelevant at the moment. We should be actually getting behind him. And I don't understand politics. I've stood for London Mayor and I've stood for as an MP down in Dover and Deal and came second down there. And I'm proud to do that. But the reason why is I was a proud Tory, and we've lost the Tory party, a proud Thatcherite. And I believed in freedom of speech, small state, low tax, all the things that Reform UK are standing for at the moment. That's why Richard Tice asked me to stand as London Mayor. And, we didn't have the resources then. And at that point, Nigel hadn't declared he was standing for to become leader of Reform. So I didn't have that backing. Obviously, his standing did help me become second. I got 24% of the vote in Dover. You know, after 3.5 weeks campaigning.
I mean, it was incredible. I'm gutted though, because God, you would be a good MP, Howard. Maybe at the next election. But can I just clarify, because I know, as you say, there's been a lot of criticism, but you did say that your belief was that Nigel didn't like the "that lot" criticism. Is that still your belief?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's fair comment. I'm not going to. There's a lot of stuff, private conversations, and I'm not breaking trust here. I think that lot was a big mistake to be put out there, because it did actually diminish the enthusiasm for reform by saying that lot who just happened to support a working class hero in Tommy Robinson, who's basically saying give us back our country, as what Lee Anderson has been saying for a long time. It's what Rupert Lowe's been saying for a long time. But saying that lot was the wrong thing to say, and I do believe that Nigel didn't like that.
And it is interesting, isn't it? Because what Tommy Robinson has created with Uniting the Kingdom is actually something that so many political movements are desperate to create. ARC, for example, with Jordan Peterson, desperate to create that. And in fact, the next Uniting the Kingdom rally, which will be held when Tommy is released from prison, I think there's a strong possibility that Jordan Peterson will agree to speak at the rally. Now, can the MSM keep ignoring it at that point, or keep trying to describe it as a hate march at that point? I mean, remember, there was no violence at the Uniting the Kingdom rally at all. Compare that to the pro-Hamas marches, which are incredibly violent every single week in London. Or, for example, the Black Lives Matter demonstrations back in 2020, which were incredibly violent. So does there have to become a tipping point, I guess, is what I'm getting at, Howard, where all of a sudden the mainstream media realizes, actually, we can't keep ignoring this guy, or we can't keep demonizing this guy. He is a part of the conversation in the same way that Douglas Murray is part of the conversation, and Jordan Peterson is part of the conversation. In fact, a lot of times, Howard, they say very similar things. So is the difference that they just happen to have posh voices?
Yeah, maybe. I'm a common Southeast London boy born in Lewisham, so maybe I'm closer than Tommy than others might think. But just to give you an example, what happened about a week and a half ago, I had a 2-hour conversation in Portcullis House, which is the home of for your viewers, the home of the MPs, their offices, with a very senior Tory MP who requested me to be there, and he made the point. It's about time, and this is supporting what you're saying, Dan, about the MSM. But the fact is, what we're seeing at the moment is the right side of politics, and I only mean centre-right to a little bit. I don't mean right fascism and all that sort of thing. I'm talking about to centre-right just a little bit further, is so disparate. We've got the Tories, we've got Reform, we've got all these people, and what people are crying out for is to bring that together. And the only people that can bring that together at the moment is Nigel and Kemi. And I would, my plea, even though we've heard things like we've got to obliterate the Tories, I'm sorry, I think it's a case of we've all got to swallow our pride, swallow our egos, get together and sit down, because this Labour government is going to destroy this country, and it's going to destroy it based on socialist idealism. And I can't bear that. I'm 70 years of age, mate, and I'm not going to bear this any further.
Yeah, no, I do understand what you're saying, but this is where I also think, though, it has to factor in the grassroots movement. It has to factor in the Tommy Robinson movement too. That's where it's really interesting. Obviously, in the US, Donald Trump was a big enough character and a big enough force to do that. But goodness me, look at how they tried to destroy him, Howard, time and again. Yeah. So the question to me is Nigel Farage big enough to do it? I think he is, actually. I think he is. But that's why it's critical that he doesn't turn so many people off right at the beginning and sort of harnesses this cultural movement. Because, I mean, Howard, the idea that people would try and describe me or you as far right is ludicrous. It's insanity. As fascists, I mean, come on. So this is why I think people have to wake up to what's going on. if you continue to brand us as that, we dismiss you because it is a joke. It is an absolute joke. But just before we move on to this two-tier justice thing, it is astonishing, isn't it, that Tommy Robinson is in a wing of 16 cells on his own because they are so terrified for his safety in Woodhill. He shouldn't even be there, Howard.
Absolutely right, Dan. He shouldn't be in there. He should be outside. He should be maybe, for the fact he actually did, regarding his film, he did play his film, etc. And there was, he did break some that restriction on him and doing that. And to cut a long story short, it's nothing. I mean, we're going to come on to two-tier judiciary and policing in a minute. I've got a classic example of something I was in court the other day on talking about the Tooting 4. You may have heard of it. But the simple thing is, in terms of Tommy, he should be out on the streets and he should have the same protection that any major political leader should have, because he is under attack. But he should not be sitting in that jail.
No, it's a joke. It's a complete joke. And there's more judicial witch hunts against him, by the way, Howard, which I'm going to talk about as the week goes on. What I will say, though, because I know a lot of you are interested in his state of mind, his mentality, his physicality, I was actually really surprised by how well Tommy is doing. He gets 4 visits a week. A couple of days before me, he'd seen his son, and he's strong, actually. He is strong. He's very focused on what's next. He has big documentaries planned, which are going to rock the Labour Party and the establishment to its core next year. But there are difficulties, of course. There are financial difficulties. There are difficulties in terms of ongoing lawfare. But given the situation he's in, I actually thought he was particularly strong. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.